Welcome to DevJams. This is where we talk with developers who are doing amazing, interesting, inspiring, innovative things when it comes to images and videos inside of their projects. Maybe that deals with delivery of those images and videos. Maybe it has to do with the way that they manage them and manipulate them inside their projects. But either way, it's probably done with Cloudinary because we're the ones that produce these episodes of DevJams. And that's a good segue into me because my name is Sam Brace and I am the Senior Director of Customer Education and Community at Cloudinary. In today's episode, we're going to be talking with Melinda, who is a developer who has not always been a developer, but she has developed an amazing project that is a great starter kit for those that are trying to quickly publish a brand new website project onto the web using a few really key pieces of technology: Nuxt, TinaCMS, and Cloudinary. So we're going to dive into all those different aspects of software and why she chose what she chose, and also how this can be used for easy content publishing purposes when you are developing your own latest projects. Joined with me for every one of these episodes is Jen Brissman. She is a technical curriculum engineer here at Cloudinary, and she is also the one leading much of the developer content inside of our Cloudinary. So, Jen, it is wonderful to have you here for this episode.
Hey, happy to be here.
So, Jen, tell me, why are we excited to talk to Melinda today?
A few really important reasons. The first one is I'm excited to learn more about Tina, which is a relatively new headless content management system. So if you haven't heard about it yet, that's no surprise because it's relatively new. And the default with Tina is that the images are hosted in GitHub. So I'm really excited to see how Cloudinary kind of came in and helped with performance here. And another reason I'm really excited to talk to Melinda today is due to her background, which we'll hear about in a bit. But the transition from being an artist to a coder is one that I relate to. And I'm really excited to hear about that in more detail from Melinda today.
Wonderful. I completely agree with all of that. And I am also really excited by the Tina aspect of it as well. It's definitely an open source headless content management system I've seen floating around in many different projects. And this is our first time really profiling it here on DevJams project. So I think this is one where I've been very interested to learn more about Tina. And I think this is a great chance for me and you to both be highly educated on what this means for us, our customers, and everybody else that might be using it for content management. Very good point. Before we jump over to Melinda, I do want to point out that everything that we will be showing inside of this overall project is tied to her main GitHub account. If you just go to github.com and you go to MM Golden, so that is her main GitHub account, you're going to see here that all of her repos, including this one we're talking about today, Nuxt TinaCMS Starter, is going to be there. So definitely take a chance to check that out. And then also make sure that you are checking out all the previous episodes of DevJams. We've been doing this for a couple of years now. There's literally dozens, close to hundreds of hours of material that we have produced talking with amazing developers like Melinda and other people. So make sure you're taking the chance to look and understand all of these great projects because they'll definitely benefit you when you come to using Cloudinary and, of course, your overall software development work. So that can be found at cloudinary.com/podcasts. And of course, we do publish these on practically every podcast service that you can think of, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many others. On top of all of this, a lot of the conversations that we're going to be having a part of today can be extended into our Cloudinary community. And you can find that at community.cloudinary.com, as well as our associated Discord server that is very quickly growing. So it's a great place to have real-time conversations, as well as to participate in some of the forum-based conversations that are in our main community forum too. With all of that said, let's bring on our friend, Melinda. So Melinda, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So Melinda, obviously you've had an amazing career doing many different things, but and we've alluded to this a little bit, but I'd love to get some more information around. So tell us about who you are, but of course the career path you've taken going from photography to development. How did this happen?
Yes, I'm currently a front-end developer, but I have a non-traditional path to software development.
I don't have a computer science degree. I actually did art in college and I specialized in painting and drawing. After college, I started a wedding photography business with my husband, and we did that for a few years. And I started getting more interested in coding when I built our wedding photography website using WordPress. And I wanted to learn more about how to style the website. So I started learning more about CSS. And that's how I got into doing more coding. Eventually, I got a job at a web design company, and I was there for a few years, just building like simple HTML, CSS websites. I started teaching myself more about JavaScript while I was there. And eventually I did a online coding bootcamp with Treehouse. And that kind of taught me about React and Node, Express, things like that. And eventually that led to me getting a job as a software developer.
I gotta say, it sounds like pretty similar to some things that you went to, Jen.
Yeah, absolutely. I was so interested. I have a non-traditional background as well, and I've gone from being an artist to a coder, and it's cool to hear about people that have a similar journey because I'm sure a lot of what drew you to being an artist is creating things and building things and making things look beautiful. And it seems like that's also what you're able to do in your front end role now. So I wonder how much you feel that your background as an artist is applied to your current role and career.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think one of the reasons I like coding so much is just building things and creating things. And that's the same thing when you're an artist. You're always in creator mode. So it's very similar to be a software developer. And I think there definitely are some advantages coming from being an artist. For one, I think I have a pretty good eye for design since I have that visual background, which is very important as a front end developer. Another thing I'll say is you have to have a really good attention to detail. And I think that definitely helps.
Absolutely. And really, if you think about a blank canvas and you think about a blank IDE or a blank terminal, or the thing that both of these things have in common is you're creating something where there once was nothing.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people think about coding and web development as this really technical math and science STEM world, but I find it, and I get the sense that you agree, to be incredibly creative. And I think it's a pretty natural path that to an outsider, they might think going from an artist to a technical role wouldn't be a natural path. But I think you and I both know, Melinda, and probably Sam too, after just seeing my journey as well firsthand, would agree that it's a very creative process. I'm excited to get into what you built and talk about that a little more today.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
A great segue. Let's talk about what you built. What was the inspiration for creating this starter kit? As we mentioned, there's lots of different technologies that are there to be able to help with web publishing, content publishing. There's Tina, there's Nuxt, there's Cloudinary as a component, but what prompted you to create this?
Yeah, it really started from building a website for my husband. He's starting a new photography and video business. And so I was trying to decide how I wanted to build it. I had some requirements where he still needed to go in and create blog posts, and he's not technical. I wanted to find a CMS that I could use. And I tried a few different things before I landed on Nuxt and TinaCMS. But really, I've been a Vue developer for a few years now. So Nuxt made sense since I already have that experience. And you can generate static sites with Nuxt, and it has the SEO capability. That was a no-brainer there. And then as far as Tina, I was actually using Forestry before I started using Tina, but the Forestry team shut down Forestry because they were creating Tina. And I don't know if you used Forestry before, but it was a really great tool. And so when they came out with Tina, I wasn't really sure what it was going to be like, but it's actually been really great to work with.
What I gotta say, it's not about your project, but the reason why Tina always caught my eye, because I was familiar with the move from Forestry to Tina, but it also is where it's named after the llama from Napoleon Dynamite, which is an
Yeah.
incredible like situation. So it's definitely where there's a lot of fun that they're bringing through the CMS aspect of what they have here. It's playful, it's innovative, excellent pick in my opinion for what's there. Like I said, I've been hungry for a project to show on DevJams that uses Tina. So I'm glad
Mhm.
for that selfish reasons alone. Well, one thing that I do want to ask about though, so one thing I know about your overall project is that you are using Nuxt content, and that's not necessarily something that's about just Nuxt in general. It's about a subset of what Nuxt is providing. What is Nuxt content, and what does that mean for your overall project?
But yeah, I mentioned this already, but Nuxt is a framework that's built on top of Vue and has some extra features. And one of the nice things about Nuxt is it has all these modules that you can install, and it kind of extend the functionality of Nuxt. And one of the modules is Nuxt content. And it basically makes it really easy to build a blog with Nuxt. And so what you can do is you can install Nuxt content, and then you can write all your blog posts and markdown files inside of a content folder. And then Nuxt content will take those files and turn those into URLs. Each file ends up being a URL on your website where people can go to view your blog posts. They also provide some components that make it very easy to display the markdown as actual text in your blog post.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool to be able to
Yeah.
use Vue components with Markdown. That's slick for sure. And then thinking about the other part of this, so the selfish part of this, because we've talked about Nuxt, we talked about Tina. So what prompted you to say that you needed Cloudinary to be a part of this project?
But yeah, Tina doesn't really come with a built-in way to install like a third-party provider for using images. By default, it just uses Git as or a repo-based media provider, and that's not really that great, especially when it comes to performance. That's a big reason why I wanted to use Cloudinary as the media provider for Tina, because all the images are delivered over CDN, so it increases the performance of your websites. Yeah, it was a little tricky getting Cloudinary to work with Tina just because with Forestry, it was way easier to just install Cloudinary and right in Forestry in their dashboard. But with Tina, because it's so new, they're still working on it. So there's a little extra steps that I can talk about later to get Cloudinary actually working with Tina.
A reason that we hear about when we ask, why did you build this, is I wish this is something that I had when I was trying to first do what I'm trying to do. So just to tie it all together for our listeners, what Melinda built is a Nuxt and TinaCMS starter template. So this template that she built, which is what we're going to talk about, is I think something she wishes she had when she was starting with Tina. And because it's such a new technology, Melinda's gone in and done the good work and probably worked through some roadblocks. And that's something that we'll probably talk about now.
Yeah, I think this is actually a great segue. Melinda, are you okay? We share your screen and walk through the project?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, so let's take a look at this.
Okay, so we also take a look at my actual starter template here. So yeah, you can go here and you can use this template if you want. It is public. And then I actually have the starter project running here. It's very simple. I wanted to keep it very simple so that anyone can come in here and customize it how they want. And there's only one blog post right now, which is my first blog post. Very simple. Now, the really cool part, though, is the TinaCMS dashboard. And to get there, you would go to /admin. And this is what the TinaCMS dashboard actually looks like. And this is running locally on my machine. You have collections over here. And right now, I have my collection set up to be blog posts. But the cool thing about Tina is that you can make this anything you want. It could be a page that you're customizing. It could be blog posts, whatever you want, really. And if I go over here and actually click into the blog post, you can see that this is just a regular rich text editor, which is really nice for maybe you want to build a website, but you want your marketing team to be able to come in here and add things, but they don't know how to code. You could add this. You can also see the markdown as well if you want. But this is just a very basic example. There's so much more you can do with Tina. That's the really nice thing about it, is you can really make it your own. And then, of course, here's the media manager. Right now, it's set up to connect to my personal Cloudinary account. So if I look at Nuxt blog here, I have some pictures that are actually in my personal website right now. But you can use these images in your blog posts, in your content. So that's really nice. It's already connected to the Cloudinary. But yeah, you could go in here as an example. Go back here, choose this. You can see there's the URL for Cloudinary. Hit save. Now, if I go back to the blog post, the image is right there already. So it's so simple.
Yeah. And how did you know, without just assuming, how did you know that this would help with your performance, your website performance, using Cloudinary versus locally or files stored in GitHub or on Git?
Yeah, I've tried just using the regular images straight out of GitHub, but you can tell the difference when you do that versus Cloudinary, because it takes longer for the image to just load in the website, which is definitely not good.
Yeah.
And as soon as you use Cloudinary instead, it's just like way faster and the performance is much better.
Yeah. And I'm assuming too, on a site where there are hundreds of images, it would make even more of an impact. But it seems like you noticed even with one or two images that the page loaded faster, which is always great to see.
Yes, definitely important on a very image heavy website, like a photography website, for sure.
Exactly. And as we know, people have short attention spans. And if something takes longer than, I don't know, a quarter of a second to load, I'm sure there's data surrounding this and people's attention spans. And I'm sure the data is always evolving as we get less and less focused as a society. But this stuff is really important. So I'm glad you went in there, did this, connected Cloudinary. So when you said that it wasn't as easy to connect it, is this something that you can show in the code, how you did connect Cloudinary to make this template work?
Yeah, for sure. So I will pull up the code now so we can look at that. So this is my starter template. There's not a whole lot installed in here already. You can see that we have Nuxt content. We have ESLint prettier, the TinaCMS. There's also this Nuxt TinaCMS Cloudinary package, which helps connect Cloudinary. And it's a little bit confusing because it says Nuxt here, but I'm using Nuxt. And it really doesn't matter. But I just wanted to point that out, that you can still use this package with Nuxt. There's also a couple packages in here just to get the backend working. But really, I will show you like how it works in here. The main thing is this content folder I told you about. This is where all your content will live. In this case, I just have this one markdown file called My First Blog Post. And you can see that this name corresponds with that URL that I showed you, which is really nice. It does that automatically for you. And there's the image right there that I uploaded earlier. So Tina will come in here and automatically update this file for you as soon as you save it. So that's nice. The other thing that's important is this slug component here. This is just a catch-all for anything. You have this component here, the content doc. That is actually what is rendering all the markdown, and that comes from Nuxt content. And there's some querying here just to get the post so that I can show the post title up here. So that is the basics of how Nuxt content works. I can also show you the Tina config. So this is the Tina config. As you can see, it has like the branch, and that is the branch that Tina will actually commit to in GitHub for you. That's the really cool thing about Tina, is that it's all Git based, everything source controlled in GitHub. You don't have to actually host a separate CMS somewhere. That was like one of the big things I was looking for. Then you just have to put your client ID token in there. This is where I'm loading that custom store for Cloudinary in the config here. Now, this is what I think is really cool about Tina, just how you can model your content and everything is source controlled. You can update this or change things later, but you just have the post and that path to that content folder that I showed you earlier. And then these are the fields that were in that dashboard. We just had the title, we just had a body, but there are so many different fields you can add in here. It's really customizable. So yeah, that's nice. So once you get Tina installed, the next part of this was getting Cloudinary working. And like I said before, by default, it just uses the Git repo for the images. So there's a little bit of work you have to do to get Cloudinary working. If you look at the Tina docs and go down here to media and then external media providers, you'll have to basically go through this. It's a little bit confusing at first because a lot of the documentation in here is meant for Next.js. Tina was originally built for Next.js, and some of the features are not ready for review yet, so just keep that in mind. But I would look at, this is how to authenticate. I think I will look at this one, the Cloudinary one. So yes, you can go through this documentation and get an idea of how to get Cloudinary working with Tina. So find this part. This is the part I think I was trying to find, this media handler. as I mentioned, there's not really like a built-in way right now to add in a media provider to Tina. You have to first create a small backend media handler, essentially. And in this case, you can use Express, which is just a framework built on Node, to create some API endpoints to connect to Cloudinary. So all this code is already provided thanks to the Tina docs. So these are the API endpoints I was talking about. But you need a place to post this code. And thankfully, there are Netlify functions that could do that.
Mhm.
And this is something that I learned recently. You can host server-side code right on Netlify, which is very convenient because I was already using Netlify to host my websites and apps. If we go back to my code here, I have a folder called Netlify. And inside there, there is this API JS. And so you see, I basically have the same code from the documentation. The only difference was I had to add this cloud name, API key, and API secret. All this you would get from your Cloudinary dashboard. But yeah, it is essentially the same thing as the documentation there. And then the other thing you have to do, like I mentioned, was make sure you configure Tina to use the Cloudinary Media Store. And then there's also a couple things you have to do to get Netlify working, which is redirects. If you look at the Netlify file here, you have to add this to make sure that all the redirects are happening for your API endpoints. Once you get all of that going, you can actually test out your Netlify functions locally too before you publish it to Netlify. You have to install the Netlify CLI first, but once you do that, then you can just run this Netlify dev. And it just takes a second to get going, but you can see now it's running. There we go. It opens up a localhost here at this port, but now I can test that the Netlify function is working and Cloudinary is working locally. Yeah, that is a basic run through of how it works.
Can you go back to your terminal and just show us all that ran there as it was loading? If you just scroll up.
Yeah.
The terminal bigger and just show us all that happened.
There's a lot running here.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, it first has to find all the environment variables that I created. It starts the Tina dev server. And then, then it starts the local host server as well after that.
Thank you so much for letting us really see this process under the hood. Like even the Netlify TOML file you have with the redirects, this is just really helpful for someone who does want to use this template to not miss a step or not have to go digging. You've really made this easy for anyone watching. If they want to do this, you've really, I don't think, unless is there anything you missed, but it really seems like you hit all the steps. Is there anything?
There were a couple of roadblocks that I hit. One thing was like this TOML file. This was in the documentation. And if you look at the documentation though, go back to, so here is what it says in the documentation to add. But then you look at my file, it's slightly different.
Hmm.
I had to add this up here because I came across some errors that I really couldn't figure out what was going on. I had to do a lot of Googling, but this apparently fixes it. But yeah, that was one of the reasons why I even created this template to begin with, so someone wouldn't have to go through all the pain that I did. Another thing I wanted to mention was this redirect here in this toml file is not always reliable. So I also had to add this redirects file in the public folder. This is in the Netlify documentation. After adding that, the redirects actually started working for me. So just wanted to also throw that out there.
No, and it's helpful because now you've given probably a very greased path for a lot of the developers that have to go down and go through this effort. I'd love to see. So when you've been showing the TinaCMS, what does the uploading process look like with that? Does that, yeah, I'm curious, like, to understand, does that then push it to your Cloudinary cloud and then make sure then you have a various asset available inside of the media manager that Tina has?
Yeah, so you can definitely upload. There we go. So I don't know if I have any pictures I could use right now. Let's look here. Okay, this is like kind of on my old website. So if I click on that and upload, there we go.
Perfect. Yeah. And as you can see, like that URL immediately is rendering to your Cloudinary cloud. It sees the upload. It's got versioning that's attached to it. No transformations that are being applied at that point. Like we aren't necessarily optimizing it for format but the nice thing is that once you have it in Cloudinary, as we know, that level of optimization or cropping or resizing is fairly easy to add after the fact. But the fact that you have it uploaded, ready to go, fantastic.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention too that another module that's really helpful with Nuxt is the Nuxt image module. Is not installed in my starter template because I wanted to keep it very simple. But with the Nuxt image module, you can actually connect it to Nuxt image, or you connect Cloudinary to Nuxt image. So it has the integration already built into it, which is really nice. And then you can do lazy loading with it. The transformations you're talking about, you can do in Nuxt image. And you can also have a placeholder image while the image is actually loading. Yeah, just a really cool module to check out.
Yeah, that's the nice thing too. Is like everything you have here is meant to be a starter kit. So if someone wanted to take that next step, or they wanted to do something different with the deployment, because we know you're deploying through Netlify, there's lots of different options that you've given somebody when it comes to this. So this is fantastic. And so I'm interested to know. So you mentioned that you were rebuilding the website for your husband's photography business, and so now that he's using this Tina Nuxt mix that you've gone and developed so lovingly for him, how is it going for his? Is he finding this to be easy to use?
I think it's going so far, but I've already gotten some requests to add some more things in there. So that's been a good learning experience for me. Just as an example, I learned recently that you could add like a draft toggle to your blog posts right in Tina, so that if you're not ready to publish a blog post yet, then you could just have the toggle turned on and it won't publish the post to your website. Yeah, I've gotten some requests from him already.
Get it. I get it. Yeah. It's always nice to have a client that is close by that you can just work with iteratively on these things. So this is great. Great. Melinda, this has been wonderful. This is a great walkthrough of the project. And of course, we've shown everybody how to access it. Hopefully we see people using this for inspiration, if not to actually implement something within their own systems to create great projects like the one that you have here. This is wonderful, Melinda. keep it up. And I would love to have you back. And if you create more great things that use Cloudinary and all these other technologies together, so we can show that awesome work here on Future DevJams. Excited to see more what you're up to in your next steps of your career.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I do want to point out that everything that me and Melinda covered here today, as we pointed out, Nuxt is a great web framework to be checking out. So you can check that out at nuxt.com. And also, you can simply see that a lot of the details around Nuxt content are going to be available at content.nuxtjs.org. And that's going to give you all of the details that we had here about taking those Vue components that you are going to have with Nuxt. And of course, be able to use those inside of Markdown for a lot of the great work that Melinda was able to show here today. And also, we'll be including in all of our show notes details inside of the Tina documentation that reference the ways that media can be used. That is Cloudinary media, images and videos inside of the TinaCMS, just like Melinda went and showed here today. And for those of you that are joining us in the middle of this program, also note that we would love to have you to be part of these in the future. So make sure that you're checking out all of the past episodes at cloudinary.com/podcasts, or wherever you like to listen or watch podcasts. Maybe that's Spotify, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube. We are in lots of those places, plus more. So make sure to check all of those out. And then lastly, make sure that you are part of the conversations that are part of our overall Cloudinary community at community.cloudinary.com to meet other users of our services and be able to share details about projects you're building, be able to troubleshoot together, and just build relationships. With all of that said, Jen, what's your big takeaway here?
Yeah. So many amazing things. Like I always say, developers helping developers. It just seems like a trend that warms my heart. It makes me so happy. But another big takeaway for me that maybe it's a little self-serving, but I believe Melinda heard about Cloudinary through the Syntax podcast, which is created by Wes Foz and Scott Tolinsky. And maybe we can have them as guests sometime in the future, but it just made me really happy to hear that people are watching these podcasts and learning about new technologies that they can use to make their work even better. And so I just was really happy to hear that Melinda learned about Cloudinary through another podcast. So I hope people listening to our podcast might learn about Tina from listening to this episode, for example. And Melinda brought that to us, again, bringing it back to the developers helping developers. It's all cyclical. It's all related. It seems like everyone knows everybody or is one degree of separation in this community. Really cool stuff happening. What about for you, Sam?
No, that's actually a great segue into a lot of things that I was thinking here. But I love the fact that it's just made development simple. I love starter kits. I love templates. I like being able to know that someone has developed an easy path for me to take when it comes to development. And that's what Melinda's gone and done. She went and tried these things out, and sometimes it was tough for her, but she made it easier for others. And I think that's an amazing thing. And I also agree that being able to learn through many different types of resources that are available, including podcasts, is a great way to expand your development repertoire. And I think that's a great thing that we're seeing that many of our guests have done, including Melinda's.
Yeah. And another thing we're seeing is what Melinda said, that she originally created this template because her husband, who's not technical, needed a way in. And that's something I'm seeing all the time is technical people creating things for non-technical people or semi-technical people. And it's something that we talk about at Cloudinary with our programmable media products, as well as our DAM products and all of our different personas and different customers and users and use cases. So this is just another point for people creating things to help other people, that it's like they need them to do what they do and they need them to do what they do. It's all connected. Really cool stuff.
Yep. I couldn't have said it better. So with that said, thank you. Thanks for everybody for sticking around and being part of this amazing episode with Melinda. And we hope to see you at future DevJams episodes, where we're going to talk with developers who are doing equally exciting, innovative, interesting things with image and video delivery and management, hopefully with Cloudinary. So take care. On behalf of everybody at Cloudinary as part of this episode, we thank you and see you soon.